call to order the meeting of Mayor and Council. I thank everybody for being here. If you'll rise for the invocation by Councilman Holland.
Let us pray. Our Father God, we ask for your blessing upon this gathering. As all of us that's here tonight, we pray and ask for the wisdom and knowledge to lead us and guide us through it. And our Father God, we pray to lay our problems, worries, and burdens in your hands. For the battle is not ours, it's yours. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Okay, do we have any changes to tonight's agenda?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay, you've all received the minutes from our last council meeting. If there are no questions or comments, I'll accept a motion to receive the minutes.
Councilman Henderson, I move to accept.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman McCoy, I will second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. All right, do we have any correspondence?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay, at this time, we do have a public hearing tonight, but before we get started on that, I'd like to call up to the podium the Director of the Delaware League of Local Governments, Mr. Carl Luft, for a presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I understand there's a couple of new council members, and I talked to the mayor earlier today. I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about what we do. I'm the director of the Delaware League of Local Governments, and we represent the 57 incorporated municipalities in the state, as well as the 3 counties in our organization. We're a support organization that provides a number of services, one of which is representation in Dover as lobbyists, if you will. We have a self-funded insurance program for workers' compensation and general liability. We provide training with the help of the University of Delaware for our members. And we also have an emergency management grant program. So we're kind of a multifaceted organization, but we service the local governments, and we're a small budget operation. We depend on the local budget, the local governments to help us provide our services to our members. We meet monthly, except during pandemics. So once every 100 years, we take roughly 6 months to a year off, I guess, unfortunately. Right. But that's what we do. We have 2 premier appointed official awards. One for Town Manager of the Year, and another for the Clerk, Municipal or County Clerk of the Year. And I'm here to make a presentation on one of those awards, and I'd like to invite the mayor up to the podium with me.
Well, how about if I do it just right from here?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
We'll do this. We would like to invite Tracy Torbert up front.
Yeah.
She was named
Tracy is
City Clerk of the Year for the state of Delaware. So.
And I've known Tracy through the years. She's been president of the Clerks Association, and these awards are giving to leaders, individuals that professionally benefit their associations, and those that have provided extreme high rate services for their particular organizations. In this case, it's the Clerks Association. And Tracy's been a long-term member, 14 years with the city, and we have a lot of respect for her. We have 2 different committees that evaluate these 2 different positions. But I wanted to express my sincere appreciation to Tracy for winning this award. We're really happy for her.
So anybody that works for the city of Seaford clearly knows what Tracy does, to keep us all on our toes. Certainly the elected know what Tracy does, me more than anybody. She was also named the Mayor's Right Choice this year. She sort of cleaned up on the awards this year. But really, on behalf of all of us, the elected, and all of your fellow employees, we say congratulations, well deserved.
I would like to thank Carl. DLLG actually also gave me a scholarship this year so that I can continue my education to work towards my MMC. And, you know, he does a lot for the Clerks Association, and we do. DMCA does appreciate everything you do for us. And the City Council and the Mayor, thank you for entrusting me to do everything that I do for each of you. Charles, you have been there for me to do, you know, without you and letting me learn and do what you know, sometimes you gotta fall to get back up to learn, and that's how you do learn. So I appreciate you allowing me to have that leadership.
Absolutely.
And I could not do what I do without my city staff that assists me without a doubt, especially with the election. That was a team effort, not a I effort.
We're really honored, I should say, Tracy. The league is really honored that you're winning this award.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate it.
We have to follow a hierarchy, you know, Senate, House. That's how it works.
You know, it's a big deal when the wheels come into town, so.
Well, I take an executive privilege here as past mayor and member of the House of Representatives. It's great to be here. I didn't know what's more dangerous is wearing the mask or having my glasses fog up as I tried to get in here tonight. So, you know how that is, David, you know, the liability issue. So, but Tracy, you can come up a little bit closer there. I won't bite you. So, but we did want to be here tonight because, you know, my tenure as mayor, I never saw the city manager and the clerk outside the city hall before the meeting looking around to see who was coming. And this was supposed to be a surprise that we were going to sneak up on everybody. And they're both outside looking around. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Somebody clued them in, Carl? I don't know if that was going on or not. But it's a distinct honor for me to be here, Tracy, to present you with this House tribute on behalf of your accomplishment as City Clerk of the Year. And I didn't hear your presentation, so I'm going to take privilege in reading this because I think it's important to do this.
It's more extensive, I think.
So the House will recognize Ms. Torbert, City Clerk of the City of Seaford, for receiving this special honor. She's been employed by the City of Seaford for 14 years, serving as the City Clerk for 3. Her leadership in organizing the recent municipal elections is to be commended. Ms. Torbert ensured the integrity of more than 350 absentee ballots during this election and was on hand during the election day to make sure the voter safety was the priority of the city by following proper requirements mandated by the Delaware state of emergency. Ms. Torbert was the project manager and for successful reassessment of more than 2,800 parcels in the city this year. 2,800 parcels, that's a pretty big accomplishment. This valued employee has a great work ethic, wonderful customer service skills, and organized leadership abilities. We thank Ms. Torbert for her remarkable contributions to the City of Seaford and congratulate her on the 27th of October. We have a House tribute that is numbered as 150th of the General Assembly, document 1858, signed by myself. Representative Timmy Dukes wanted to sign it as well, Chief Clerk of our House, and also the Speaker of the House. Each word's called. Congratulations.
Tracy. Hi. I have a tribute from the State Senate. It says similar things to what Danny Shorts says, but we do appreciate, as a resident of the City of Seaford, I appreciate all the work that you did. I appreciate all the work that the council, mayor and council members do too. Our police department and all those that work together to keep our community safe and to keep our and to keep us from well, just to bring honor to our community. I think that means more than anything, and to have this statewide tribute to you, it reflects the importance that you are to our community and to our state and to the organization too, for the statewide organization. So thank you, and God bless.
Thank you.
Remember, it's also historic because it's 150th General Assembly, like Danny mentioned. You're 17 1712, your number is 1712.
Tracy. Yeah. Certainly, congratulations. You do a great job. Every time I recall the information I need, you're there to help me through the process. I really appreciate all that. And I'm sure the city council certainly appreciates all you do. And the mayor, I'm sure he is. You keep him straight. That's a heck of a job starting with you. I have got a tribute to the county council. Sussex County Council tribute, be it hereby known to all that the Sussex County Council commends Tracy Torber, Delaware League of Local Government's 2020 Clerk of the Year. The Sussex County Council recognizes Seaford City Clerk Tracy Torber upon her selection as the Delaware League of Local Government's 2020 Clerk of the Year, a well-deserved distinction among her peers that honors and celebrates her professionalism, leadership, dedication, and integrity. Hereby directs this tribute to be presented 27th day of October 2020. Mine's only signed by me as council president. I haven't gone through it. That's the best I can do.
Tracy,
Hold on,
You
I'm
nailed
not
it.
finished yet.
So the city would have done a tribute as well, but Tracy types up the tribute, so that would have been
It's a little tough.
but it would have been number one.
Right. Numero uno.
I get up here once in a blue moon, so I'm not finished yet. I'll be here till about midnight probably. One thing I wanted to mention is we have a board of directors at the league, and Mayor Genshaw is on our board of directors. So, and he does a great job. So we're really happy about that. Well, I had mentioned we have a city manager award, town manager award, and for the first time in the history of the league, our city manager of the year and clerk of the year are both from the same cities. Charles Anderson is the city manager of the year. I just want to mention that I've always been really proud of Seaford, and I've known Charles' predecessor for a long time, but Charles worked in the city manager's office for, I don't know how many years, a long time. Yeah, and he's done a great job, and the mayor and the council made a great selection to have him replace your predecessor, and I just wanted you to know, I am really proud of the fact you're getting this award. The league is honored. And congratulations. Plaque says it's not a long resolution, but as Tracy says, Clerk of the Year is Tracy Torber, City of Seaford, and City Manager of the Year for 2020 is Charles Anderson, City of Seaford, presented by the Delaware League of Local Governments. And our selection committee is very happy you're getting this award. We're very proud of you.
This is a surprise. I will say it was a little odd when I saw my mother here, so I knew something was up. So that was a little bit of a giveaway. Let me say, I have not been city manager for a long time. I could not do it without the people that are here, not at all. I rely on them every day. There are my peer group, the city managers throughout the state, are some incredible people, and to be considered for this award and receive this award is phenomenal. So I thank all of you very much.
If any of you are aware of what this role does, a lot of times it's easy to go with the flow than to really take a leadership role and try to do new things, creative things, hard things. Charles has been an incredible leader and taken on some new things, and I tell you, Seaford's really showing some leadership here to have 2 winners here in the state. It's incredible. So.
No, you stay. Well, it again gives me great privilege to be here. Charles and I had a great privilege, as with Tracy, to work together for many years here in City Hall. So it's a great opportunity to, I thought candidly I was going to have to intervene there for a minute. I thought David maybe had gotten you flowers, but now I can give it to your wife. Big move there. Thanks, appreciate it. But I'd like to again read our tribute from the House. I think it's very important to document these things. In case everybody doesn't know, the reason these things are numbered is we have an archive system that allows us to go back and be able to pull that data out at any particular point. So it's important that these tributes go out and they're documented and numbered so that we can have them in the archives of the state of Delaware so we can commemorate this event and know what actually happened at this particular moment. So from the House of Representatives, we want to make this presentation to Charles Anderson, the Delaware League of Local Governments City Manager of the Year. We commend Mr. Anderson, the City Manager of the City of Seaford, for receiving this special honor. He started his new position by following a long-term city manager with 28 years of service. You know, that's very coincidental. You know, Tina Fallon served before myself in this position for 28 years, so we got something in common. So now I've lost my place. Now, Mr. Anderson has proven to be successful in the challenge to alter the organization's culture and to guide it into a new direction. During his first year, he fulfilled two major positions, the Chief of Police and the City Solicitor. Both hires needed to be trained, and Mr. Anderson's leadership role assisted them through that process. Seaford has experienced an economic revitalization, and Mr. Anderson has been a key part of that, directing things such as the Western Sussex Sewer District Project, the new Charter Montessori School Project, the new developments within the Seaford Industrial Park, and he has also, at this particular point, been able to help the elected officials of the City of Seaford who have requested no increase in taxes or fees for the current budget year. So Mr. Anderson has been resourceful in finding other means to fill these financial burdens for the remove those financial burdens for the taxpayer. Throughout the pandemic, he has kept employees safe, upheld the workload, and maintained the progress of ongoing projects within the city. So we thank Mr. Anderson for his remarkable contributions for the betterment of the City of Seaford and provide this tribute to him on the 27th day of October, signed by the same four fellows I mentioned previously. So congratulations, Charles. Well done.
I'm going to go out of order. The Senator to go first, yeah. Congratulations. Thanks. Job well done. Thank you. Job well done. So, I was on council for one term, but it was a pleasure working with you then. And the county position, pleasure working with you in this Western Sussex sewer thing for sure, and other things in the city. So, got a council tribute, be it hereby known to all, the Sussex County Council commends Charles Anderson, Delaware League of Local Governments 2020 City Manager of the Year. The Sussex County Council recognizes Seaford City Manager Charles Anderson upon his selection as the Delaware League of Local Governments 2020 City Manager of the Year, a well-deserved distinction among his peers that honors and celebrates his professionalism, leadership, dedication, and integrity. Hereby directs his tribute to be presented on the 27th day of October 2020. There again, just signed by me.
Yeah. Do we live in a good city or what? We got some of the greatest people in the city and the city management and in the state of Delaware, and it's proven. It's documented now. So I have a tribute from the State Senate, 150th General Assembly, and it's signed by David McBride, our outgoing President Pro Tem, Joyce E. Bauer, our wonderful Secretary of the Senate, and myself. So thank you. God bless you.
Thanks, Brian.
All right.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you so much.
Sorry. Thank you, Carl.
Good job, man.
Thank you, Dave.
Well done.
Did you notice our attorney got an applause when he showed up?
Martha Anderson, your parents, your mom's waving. Okay, it is 7:21, and we're going to go ahead and close our regular meeting and open up our public hearing, and I'll turn it over to our building official, Mr. Mike Bailey.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good
And,
evening.
Congratulations to Tracy and Charles.
Oh, thank you, Michael.
So the first item on tonight's public hearing is for the residents at River Place. They're seeking a final site plan review for the construction of 2 apartment buildings to be known as River Place Number 3 and River Place Number 4, both to include 36 dwelling units and to be built on tax map and parcel 431-5.00-318.00, 322.00, 323.00, 323.01, and 324.00. These are the properties I just mentioned. It's vacant lands right now on the river, on South North Street, and on the top side of that is Middleford Road, and then on the bottom of that image is existing apartment buildings that he's built on Water Street. And the parcels are planned to be combined into 2 lots, 1 for each building, as he has currently on Water Street for those 2 buildings. This is the site plan we received, and it's for 2 36-unit apartment buildings. The design of the buildings will be similar to the ones located on Water Street. He has 84 parking spaces provided, plus 9 that he's adding on North Street. And stormwater will be on site, and it does require the approval of the State Fire Marshal's Office, Sussex Conservation, and the city engineers for the stormwater and the sewer relocation, which is a priority thing. There's a sewer main running right through the middle of that property. They have to relocate first before they can build these. The next one does show a little zoom in on the dark shaded area is the building footprint, and he has parking underneath just like he does currently on Water Street. And this will be the first building to go up that will be going up there. And this project will be required to comply with the area and bulk requirements for the district, and they are asking for some waivers from City Council for the building height, density, parking, and side yard setbacks, very similar to what they got on the Water Street projects as well. They did include some renderings showing the building, what it's going to look like once it's completed. It's very attractive right there, on the water. It shows on both of them with the parking underneath. This is the sewer relocation that I mentioned earlier. The red line is where it's running across the property currently, and the green line is what they've proposed. Now this is up to review still for the city engineer to get all the details worked out on that relocation, but this is what they proposed for now, is the green line along the perimeter of the property. And they did include this next slide as a short video, some drone footage of the site and the existing buildings that they wanted to show.
Oh, there's the music. Okay,
Questions at this?
are there any questions from council?
Yes.
Councilman Henderson?
Could you go back to the plot plan or the site plan?
You want the full one or this one?
Well, just looking at the way the buildings are situated along North Street, is it one facing Water Street and then another one that, like, number 4 would turn up? How is it situated?
The building,
You can come up.
David, can you come up to the
David,
mic,
this-
please?
yeah.
the building shown on the other slide, Mike, on the site plan. The first building, building 3, is going to be an L shape. It's going to be
Okay.
going halfway up North Street and then turning down onto Water Street, kind of like an L. Building 4 will just be like an I, just going up to.
Thank you. The next question I had is, could you refresh my memory about the parking situation? I'm counting 93 parking places for 72 total units. And that's not quite the 1.5 parking spots per unit.
Yeah, like I said,
No.
they're asking for some waivers from council in regards to the parking, which were granted on the first 2 phases of this project. It's very, I think, the same exact numbers.
So there's been no change
No.
in that agreement? It's not less than or?
Right.
Okay.
And if I might, Councilman, this property is in the C3 zoning, which the zoning caveats in Riverfront Enterprise Zone allow council to make concessions for developers for height, density, and parking. I believe those are the 3 major ones, Michael?
I believe so, yes. That's
So
what
it's
they're
within
asking.
your purview to do that.
But it's not inconsistent with what we've done before?
You are correct in that statement.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Any questions from the public? Okay, Mike.
All right, so we'll move on to item number 2 for the public hearing is RMAB LLC with the property owner of a vacant lot on Shipley Street, tax map and parcel 531-13.06-41.00. They're seeking to rezone this property from C2 Highway Commercial District to an R1 Low Density Residential District. This is the property there in red. It's just a vacant lot currently, surrounded on the north side, just off the picture, by commercial properties, and to the south side there, those buildings are R3 residential, buildings, and then to the left side of that image is all R1 single-family houses. He's requesting this because it's too small to do anything with C2. It's better suited as an R1. And he has plans to build single-family homes on it. He's going to subdivide it and put some single-family homes there. This is the image from the county tax map. So it's just 100 feet wide by almost 100 feet deep. And that size does comply with the regulations for R1, which is 75 foot wide and 7,500 square feet. And this is 100 feet wide, and it's plus or minus 9,000 square feet total. And he did, I didn't add it on here, he did get a variance to reduce that, to have 2 lots there, to build 2 homes.
Okay, are there any questions from council? Councilman Henderson?
So the Board of Adjustments provided, in anticipation of this approval, they provided an approval to cut that into 2 5,000 square foot lots?
Correct, yes. Yeah, just the way the meeting schedule worked out, they met before this.
Okay.
The intent was to divide it into 2 lots for home ownership, to build homes for home ownership.
Yeah, they've built several that are already in the city limits, and they're nice, attractive homes.
Any other questions?
Follow up.
Yes, sir.
So are there examples of other 50 by 100 lots in the locality?
Yeah, within a couple blocks of this property, up and down Shipley, Phillip Street, they're similar sized lots.
So it's not,
It's not,
it's in character with the rest
Correct,
of the
yes.
neighborhood?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions from the public? Okay, Mike. All right, we're going to go ahead and close our public hearing and reopen our regular meeting.
all right, so going back to item number 1, these are the findings of facts. The project is Residence at River Place Phase 3 Final Site Plan. It's located on South North Street. Tax map and parcel 431-5.00-318.00, 319.00, 322.00, 323.00, 323.01, and 324.00. Zoning is C3 Riverfront Enterprise Zone, and is for 2 36-unit apartment buildings. The existing properties will be combined into 2 properties, providing 84 paved parking spaces on the site with an additional 9 along North Street. Stormwater will be located on site, and it requires the relocation of city's interceptor sewer, and that will be required to comply with the area and bulk requirements for the district, and waivers are requested from City Council for building height, density, parking, and side yard setback. Planning and Zoning did make a favorable recommendation to Council at their last meeting.
Okay, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman McCoy, I'll make the motion to approve the request of the residences at River Place for a final site plan approval for construction of 2 apartment buildings to be known as River Place 3 and River Place 4, both to include 36 dwelling units and are to be built on tax map and parcel number 431-5.00, -318.00, 322.00, 323.00, 323.01, and 324.00 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Holland, I second that motion.
Okay, are there any questions on the motion? Okay, Ashley, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Santos,
Aye.
Councilman Henderson,
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Holland,
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman McCoy,
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman King.
Aye.
Okay, it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, public hearing, item number 2. These are the findings of facts. Project is RMAB LLC rezoning, located on North Shipley Street. This tax map and parcel 531-13.06-41.00. Current zoning is C2 Highway Commercial. They're requesting to rezone from C2 Highway Commercial to R1 Low Density Residential in order to allow single-family dwelling. Current lot size is 100 feet wide and plus or minus 9,900 square feet, and that meets the area and bulk requirement for R1, which is 75 foot wide and 7,500 square feet. Planning and Zoning did make a favorable recommendation to council for the rezoning.
Okay, I'll accept the motion.
All right, Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman King. I will make a motion to approve the request of RMAB LLC, property owner of a vacant lot on Shipley Street, tax map and parcel number 531-13.06-41.00 for approval of a rezoning from C2 Highway Commercial District to R1 Low Density Residential District as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Okay, Ashley, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Santos,
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Henderson,
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Holland,
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman McCoy,
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman King.
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Okay, it's unanimous. Both David and Kevin, thank you for your investment in the city of Seaford. We appreciate the good work you're doing. Thank you. All right, next we have the appeal of the Board of Adjustments. City Manager, you want to walk us through this?
Yes, I'd like to ask our attorney, Dan Griffith, to come forward.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
think
you.
I would be remiss if I had the podium and I did not add my voice to those who congratulated Charles and Tracy on the awards they
Thank
got
you.
tonight. I have been doing this a long time. I've represented about 15 to 20 municipalities in Delaware. I've represented 2 of the 3 counties in Delaware, and I can say with 100% confidence that I've never seen anybody as dedicated as Charles and Tracy. I consistently drive away from the city of Seaford impressed by their dedication. So congratulations.
I do think it was apropos that when you walked in, there was a loud roar of applause. I'll just say that. So.
It's the opposite of when I come home at night. Thank you very much. We are here at this portion for a hearing on an appeal from a Board of Adjustment decision that was made on October 7th. That Board of Adjustment decision was to grant a variance to allow a barber shop in a property that is zoned R1. The applicant, I believe, is here. I believe the appellant is here. The way these appeals typically work is that because the Board of Adjustment has granted the variance, the burden is on the applicant, the burden is on the appellant, the person appealing from that decision, to persuade you that the Board of Adjustment made an incorrect decision in granting that variance. So typically the way these work is that the appellant has the first opportunity to speak and make his argument as to why the Board of Adjustment made a mistake in granting the variance. Then the applicant, who I believe is here, Mr. Bolden, will have the opportunity to explain why he applied for the variance, why he believed it was appropriate to grant the variance. And then you also have the 3 Board of Adjustment members here, and I can explain from our perspective, or at least from my perspective, our thinking on why we granted the variance. And then it will be up to the members of City Council to make a decision. Your decision will be whether or not to grant the appeal, which will be a reversal of the Board of Adjustment's decision, or to deny the appeal, which would have the effect of leaving the variance in place. So unless there are any questions on process or procedure, what I would propose to do is call the party making the appeal to the podium.
Any questions from City Council on the process?
The only thing I'd like to state a couple things. One, Mr. Blizzard is not here, and he actually submitted the letter of appeal. We did reach out to them. We called both Mr. Bolden and Mr. Blizzard, let them know. We also notified them in writing that tonight would be the appeal. So in the event that he is not here, do you want to read his letter into the record? Do you feel that's appropriate?
I think the letter itself is part of the record on the appeal. So I think to the extent it's already part of the record, I think it would be appropriate to read his position into the record.
Would you like me to do that?
I can do that.
Yeah. Oh, yes, sir. I got it.
So Mr. Blizzard submitted a letter on October 9th, 2020. It's Friday, 2 days after the hearing. It reads as follows. Dear Sirs, as a result of the board's decision regarding variance case number V-10-20 on October 7, 2020, I wish to make an appeal of that decision. At the hearing, a statute was read by Charles Anderson. It stated that barbershops were not accepted as normal home occupations in a residential district and were not permitted to establish as such. It seemed that no one on the board considered that fact at the time. Also, the applicant stated that he would be opening his business on some mornings at 5 a.m. Was this considered? My driveway is 10 feet from his barbershop door. Another consideration. As a next-door neighbor, I do not want someone wandering around my property at 5 o'clock a.m. looking for a haircut. Only 3 people came to object to the requested variance, but these were residents of the particular residential neighborhood. The property is currently being used as an intermittent site to wash and polish cars and for repairing bicycles. It is for these reasons that I respectfully submit to you an appeal of your decision. Respectfully yours, James G. Blizzard. And then it says, I plan on being out of town the week of 10/20. So that appears to be why he is not here. So that's the basis for his appeal of the decision. I would invite Mr. Bolden to come up and any witnesses you would like to bring with you to explain why you made the application and why the appeal should be denied.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Mrs. Bolden. And those that were here before, you pretty much know why we even came forward with asking for a variance in the first place. it's been over 2 years. We had a gentleman that lived on the same street but further. We don't know who he is, but he came and vandalized our property several times. So what happened, I had to call my husband to let him know this is what's going on. The police got involved. We got case numbers and everything. No resolve. There's a no contact order. The gentleman's not supposed to even walk down our street, and he has done so time and time again. Every time we call the police, they come to him. They said he has some mental issues going on. So that was the main reason my husband's like, I need to be home. I need to see what's going on. I need to be able to protect my family. Where my husband is looking to have his small establishment, which is not going to be 6 or 7 days a week. It's strictly 3 days set hours. One day he will open early for his clients because he cuts essential people, like they work at correction facilities and things like that. There's not going to be no whole bunch of people coming in and out and stuff like that. We don't have a bike business. Some of you from even seeing how our yard looks, and everybody washes their car. So him writing that about the cars being clean, and we like to clean our cars. That's nothing wrong with wiping off your car. So I wish he was here, because I think the main reason why he's upset is that our yard, our land goes over further than what he thought. And I know that has nothing to do with that, but we have security, we have lights. There's, nothing going to put him in jeopardy or his family. We wouldn't even have people come to our home if that was going to be the case. Like I said, it's just 3 days a week. We have set hours, no, people coming. It's not going to be like that. And, my husband even explained to him when he first moved in what was going to take place. Okay.
On the first meeting, everything was approved, right? And you said you made a mistake. So I had already made the transition to move my shop. So it really puts me in a bind. I'm not trying to, me and Mr. Blizzard had a conversation, and it seemed like the only time that when everything started going bad, when I tried to establish the property line, to put my fence up, and he said that it's 10 feet, it's not no 10 feet, 10 feet from the corner of my house to our property line, that's 10 feet. And then it's another 10 feet to his door. So he exaggerated on that and talking about my bicycles. I give my kids something constructive to do, and it's what's going on in the world, like I explained to you guys last time. We're fixing our bicycles. What do you expect me to do? You know what I mean? I'm trying to, and then all this stuff going on in the world, and then this guy down the street, he's on my property 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. What am I supposed to do? I'm up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. What am I supposed to do? I'm a sole proprietor. I'm by myself. I work in Delaware. I work in Maryland, so they cut my hours because of the pandemic, so how am I keep my shop in my home too? That's just common sense. I'm not trying to make it inconvenience for him. It's just personal because the property line, that's all it is. I'm telling you, that's all it is. So I'm trying to do something to make it easy on myself so I ain't got to kill myself. I've kicked out $250,000 to serve the people. $250,000 for the rent for 25 years, electric for 25 years, cable, cell phone, shop phone, 25 years with my hands. $250,000 into the system to stay in business, to service the people. And this how I get treated? Come on, man. It's not right. So I want to appeal it. I would like to get these other guys to get their opinion on it, because they wasn't here last time.
At this time, do we allow council to go back and forth with questions?
Thank you for the presentation. At this point, council members can ask any questions of you.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a.
Okay, Councilman King.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Understanding Ivy Drive, that was our first home that we bought when we moved into the community. So can we talk a little bit about a home-based business in a residential area? So if I'm your neighbor, what does traffic look like? What is, do we have open signs? Do we have like neon lights flashing? Can we talk a little bit about your day-to-day business and how what that looks like as your neighbor or residents in that community? Can we talk a little bit about that?
I'm going to do Thursday. I wanted to do Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays. From Thursday, 9 to 5. Friday, from 7 to 3. And I think it was 7 to 3. And on Saturdays, I like to get in like 5:30 till like lunchtime. Maybe about 11 o'clock. And I've been in business for 25 years. I got working class folks, so they're not going to be book loud music and all that.
If
I
I just-
respect my neighbors.
If I might, just for a second, the Board of Adjustment, Councilman King, they heard the presentation, they worked with Mr. Bolden based on his presentation, his hours. He's kind of transitioning, is what
Right.
the information you presented. He's not a full-time barber anymore. So when the decision was made and the approval was given, it was for exactly as Mr. Bolden says. There are stipulations for the variance, that it's only 3 days a week.
3 days a week.
It is no more than 35 people.
That's it.
By appointment only. There are no signs.
No sign.
No signs to be had. And again, 3 days a week, and you gave some hours that were presented during those periods. So the variance is based on that. Also, parking was discussed. You have and there's a picture of the site. He has on-site parking, and his goal is to have customers that come in, again, by appointment only, kind of one at a time, and then park in his driveway. He recognizes the road's on a curve. We talked about that. It is an area, it's a residential area that's full, and it's great. But he did address in that meeting with the Board of Adjustment all those, and the board granted him the variance based on those pretty strict stipulations.
And another thing, I mean to cut you off, but
No, you're fine, sir.
like I said, the whole thing, me and Mr. Blizzard, we had plenty of conversations before my incident was before the fence, the property line. So he only been there 5 months. He didn't even get a survey for his land. And the people that stayed there before, I've been in my house 6 years. So when they used to cut the grass, I didn't want to be on their side, so I stayed over my side because I didn't really know where it was. So when he bought the house, he assumed that's where it was. So in my process of moving my shop, put my fence up, here come the issue. That's all it is, man. That's all it is. And like I said, he didn't even get a survey. He don't even know where his property line is.
Okay.
I'm not doing this to be smart. I'm doing this because it's the best finish for me.
Can we get
Councilmember
somebody
McCoy.
out there, or have we had somebody out there to look at the line to clarify for Mr. Blizzard?
Yeah, Mike's here. Mike's our building official, and he's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but this issue of the fence has come up. You have to get a permit, so Mike has asked them to do surveys. Mr. Bolden is following his requirements that the city's placed on him.
I got the permit.
Yeah, I've actually ridden by the site. I apologize. That picture
That's
is
not even, that's old.
Yeah, that's not as up to date as it should be, but he does have his property line staked. I was there before the Board of Adjustment meeting. He has it staked, so he is working with the building official to follow all his requirements to get the necessary permits.
Okay.
So this picture does not show your shop? Okay.
Well, it's
So
that
where's the shop
garage
gonna
area.
be located? It's going to be in the garage?
Well, it's been converted.
Okay.
The house structure's there. They've just done pretty much a complete remodel. That whole garage is now closed in. It's a different color, actually, so.
Councilman Henderson. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to clarify a couple of things, or have something clarified for me. Mr. Bolden, you expressed that you were informed that someone made a mistake.
I think what the gentleman said that there was.
It's not that he said he made a mistake. He was pretty much saying that the decision was made, and Mr. Blizzard writing the appeal as if it was a mistake. I think that's what was read in.
That's why I said that I started transitioning, because I was assuming that the last meeting that everything was okay.
So I think it should be understood that the Board of Adjustments approved your request.
Okay.
But that a citizen had a right
Yes.
to appeal.
I understand.
So that's why it got to us, not
Understand.
because of any mistake that was made.
Okay, I understand.
All right, okay. So the second thing I'd like to have clarified for me is, it says that a barber shop is not accepted as normal home occupation and it's not permitted. Is it expressly prohibited?
Yes, sir. In the zoning ordinance, in R1, which this property is zoned, low-density residential, it gives you a list of home occupations that are permitted. Dressmaking, tailoring, clockworks is some that are specifically listed. Then it goes on to say barbershops and beauty salons are expressly prohibited. Now, I read that into the minutes there and shared that personally from my seat with the Board of Adjustments. I will share with council that this is not, in its strictest of sense, in my own opinion, as a Board of Adjustment member, a beauty salon or a barber shop. This is, again, a gentleman who is transitioning. It's one barber who works part-time, 35 haircuts a week on 3 days. So I didn't see it fit the strictest of definition, in my opinion, as a barber shop.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. I just, I was not up on it's prohibited, and I did watch some of the proceedings the other day, but I didn't see it all. So I just would like to have, I just wanted that clarification. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Councilman Santos?
Yeah, Councilman Santos here. Did you say that you were going to have cameras installed, or they're
Already installed.
They're already installed?
Already installed.
Okay, that's it.
Any other questions from council? Councilman McCoy?
Councilman McCoy, I just made a comment. I didn't know the motivation for why you're doing this, but I applaud you, I honestly, because to hear you say it, that you're trying to protect your family and also being willing to move your business, which is a difficult thing to do, in a pandemic, for me sitting here, I applaud you. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I have one.
Councilman
more.
King?
And this question is directed to the Board of Adjustments. And Charles alluded to Councilman Henderson's question around what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. So I guess the only concern or question that I have is, at what point, if we've got stipulations and regulations saying, hey, look, this is what's allotted, this is what's not allowed into a community. If that area is gray, then what would prevent a situation from someone moving next to them and open up a home business, or next to them and open up a home business? If it's saying, if it's written saying that it's not permissible, don't you think maybe that should be changed, or then we just?
That's an interesting, certainly the council has the authority to massage the code and change the code. I'll say a couple things. I don't, and this is subjective somewhat, and our attorney certainly is here and can speak to it. I don't think this case sets a precedent. I think if someone came to us and said, I want to open a barber shop or a beauty salon, because there's one right next door, we would take them right through the exact same process, because that's what the code says. I feel like the protections that are given to residents in a residential zone, they are very strict for a reason, because residential zones are meant for, in this case, single-family housing. We will allow some home occupations, given the board feels that what the property owner is doing is reasonable. Certainly council has the authority to change that code or massage that code if they'd like. Absolutely.
The reason that I'm asking is we've had some situations earlier in the year, we've had business owners come up, first-time business owners, and open up like a beauty salon or barbershop. There's a $5,000 impact fee that's associated with that business owner opening that business. And so I guess and nothing against what they're trying to do, I applaud that. But I guess the thing for me as a councilman representing the people in our community, you've got people that are doing the same thing to a larger scale, and then they're getting hit with a $5,000, $10,000 impact fee when they open that business, versus opening a home-based business, and none of those fees are applied.
Well, here's what I'll say. Depending upon the business, they still have to get a building permit. They still go through code review. Fees still apply depending upon what they're doing. The other thing I'll say is that any business that comes in, our Director of Economic Development, our Economic Development team with the mayor and the vice mayor, there is the ability for them to go through our Economic Development Committee and request some consideration. So we do that on a routine basis. That group meets whenever they have anything, and they consider any kind of incentive that they might give to a business or anything like that. Any small business startup that has an issue like that, we have an avenue where we can work with them on those fees. I would suggest we look at that and work them through that process.
Yeah, I would only add to that, if you didn't get a chance to read the minutes of that meeting or watch the video, I mean, that's the great thing, you guys have access to that. There were 3 residents here, 2 were supportive once they had their questions answered, so they had support of the neighborhood. Councilman Henderson?
Thank you. Mr. Bowman, could you speak to the requirements for licensure and how you have to set your accommodations up with the Department of Licensing and Regulation or professional regulation?
As far as getting my license.
Your barber's license.
Transferred.
And how it affect, how your environment, the room that you set up affects your license. And
I just gotta have a sanitary bathroom.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
So-
Wash, keep it clean for sanitation purposes.
so, I mean,
Restaurant.
along with the city's regulations that you have to follow the Department of
Hygiene and
Health
all
or,
that.
professional regulation.
Mhm.
So that's another layer of
Already looked into it.
regulation that you have to follow
looked
in
into it
order to
already.
ensure that things are on the up and up.
Understand.
Okay.
Could I say one more thing? And this was it. Thank you all for listening. One of the things me and my husband was saying is, if y'all don't remember anything else, we wanted to go about this the right way. There are so many people doing stuff, trying to get by, and we didn't, that's not us. So we wanted to do everything we're supposed to do, as upstanding citizens and all that, so.
We
thank you.
appreciate you doing that, too. We do. Okay, are there any more questions from council? Okay, if not, then we'll accept the motion from you. Would you like to say something?
One more thing on process.
Okay, okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. I just wanted to make sure we understand the legal standard that the board will be applying, or the council members will be applying in making their decision. 2 things. This is a use variance, so the consideration is whether or not compliance with the code would represent an undue or unnecessary hardship on the applicant, taking into account the impact on the surrounding area. So those are the factors. Whenever we get a use variance, the first thing we do is mention that's the standard we are applying. So those are the thoughts we had. I think you've already gotten a sense from the mayor and from the city manager what our thinking was. We were very impressed by Mr. Bolden's presentation and by his motivations, as Councilman McCoy mentioned. There were 3, as the mayor mentioned, there were 3 other residents who attended the meeting, and one of which I believe said, I came here to see what was happening. Mr. Bolden's a very good neighbor, and any concerns I have are assuaged. So we did have some pause about the fact that barbershops are mentioned in the statute as a non-permitted use. So I know when I announced my thinking and vote, I said it was a close call. But I did believe that applying those factors, he had met the standard of unnecessary hardship for a use variance. So I voted in favor, and as did the mayor and as did the city manager, for the reasons that they've expressed. So the only other thing, understanding that that's the legal standard, it is important that the members, that the council members express their reasons for their vote, even if it's just for what we heard today, rather than just say, I vote to deny the appeal, or I vote to uphold the appeal. There should be something more on the record, something to the effect of, if you vote to deny the appeal, you can say, for the reasons expressed by the board members today, for the reasons expressed by the Boldens while they're at the podium, I vote to deny the appeal. If you vote in favor of the appeal, you would have to articulate that as well and say, I don't believe that the applicant has met the standards, therefore I vote to uphold the appeal. So just something more than aye or no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
that's point of order. Are we just doing a regular motion, or are you going to go around if he wants opinion on it?
And I'll get Dan, but we have a motion.
Yeah.
I would suggest that gets read in and then see if it goes forward, if it gets a second. And then as you suggest, when
We'll
the
do
roll
it.
call vote, you say why you are supporting that motion or not. Is that correct, sir?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Everybody clear on that? Okay, with that, if there are no other questions, I'll accept the motion.
Councilman Henderson, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to deny the appeal and uphold the decision of the Board of Adjustment decision in case number V-10-20, Dontree Bolden, property owner of 718 West Ivy Drive, tax map and parcel number 531-10.17-112.01, who received a variance from section 15-13A1E, accessory uses, in an R1 low-density district of the zoning ordinance to have a barbershop business at the above referenced property on October 7th, 2020, as presented.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman McCoy, I will second.
Okay, thank you. All right, everybody clear on the roll call vote? Okay.
Yep.
Ashley, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Santos,
Councilman Santos, yes, because this property is surrounded by several other businesses. It's adjacent to Bolero, it's adjacent to Langford's Gun Shop, and it's 2 lots away from Pure Fitness. So that's my.
Councilman Henderson,
Yes, based on today's environment and public health, it's an undue burden to have Mr. Bolden trying to operate a barbershop where he could be working out of his home. He has constraints put on him by the city and by the state of Delaware for his professional regulation for his barber's license, which would limit his capacity in the shop and would also limit his capacity as per the restrictions or the limitations put on him by the variance.
Councilman Holland,
Yes, based on the facts that Dontree Bolden presented tonight, I vote him to have his business run out of his home under the regulations of the city of Seaford and through code.
Councilman McCoy,
Yes. I'm sorry you guys are going through what you have to go through. I'm sorry that you're having that issue with your other neighbor and it's causing a problem and a hardship for you guys. That you're having to move your business there because of that in order to protect your family. I'm sorry you're going through that to begin with. But again, I applaud you for doing that. We're all in tough times right now, the pandemic, and being able to sacrifice some things business-wise, moving your business to your home in order to support your family and protect them. I mean, I'm blown away by that. So thank you for what you're doing on that front. And again, anything we can do as a city to help you guys, we're here for you.
Councilman King,
I'm in complete support of the motion to deny the appeal and uphold the decision of the Board of Adjustments. I think I was really impressed with the conversation with you and your wife. I mean, entrepreneurship is alive and well. It's exciting. I'm happy for you guys. I mean, it just makes sense. You can get in, cut some of that cost down, you know what I mean, and live comfortably and put that money back into your pocket, back into the community. So I'm excited. Maybe I'll call you and get an appointment, come over and get my hair cut too. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so the appeal was denied, but like we spoke at the Board of Adjustments, there are restraints on what we allowed, and we need to abide by those. And just so for the community purpose sake, if those are seen outside the lines, it'll come back through this process if it's outside that variance. So you are in a residential area, and you have limited opportunity there, but I'm glad it went okay tonight, so thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Yes.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
Thank you. Do we applaud when he leaves?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we have the transition plan from GMB.
All right, so this evening, council has the, I don't really know if it's pleasure or not, Judy, but we're presenting for approval a proposed transition plan from the firm of George Miles and Buer of the city engineer, Miss Judy Schwartz, to Mr. Chris Derbyshire, PE, effective December 31st, 2020. I'd like to introduce some people that are here. Obviously, Judy Schwartz, who is our city engineer. Could you advance this frame? It's not there? Okay. So I'd like to ask Judy to maybe come up And
Was it her high school photo?
Yes, we did do it. I apologize. And then Mr. Chris Derbyshires, who is here, I'd like Chris to come up as well. Mr. Jim Willie, who's here, I'd like for him to come up. And then last but not least, Mr. Ben Hearn, I'd like for him to come up. This is the team from GMB that Judy has led. It's a firm, multidiscipline firm that is based in Salisbury with offices here in the city of Seaford. Judy and I were talking how long she has been city engineer. Certainly it's been all my career. And, you know, well over 30 years that she's been, you know, the city engineer. I asked her when she told us this, we went out to lunch, and she said, you know, this is what I'm thinking about. And she said, you know, how do we do this with the city council and everything? I said, well, Judy, what did we do when you became city engineer? She said, Charles, I don't remember. So it's been that long ago. I guess maybe if you don't mind, I'd like to say, Judy, you know, on behalf of the city of Seaford, thank you for all that you've done, the sacrifices you've made on our behalf. I know in the past I've heard you say how much it means to you to do engineering and represent your firm to your hometown. And you've been an inspiration, certainly to me in my career, and you've always put the city of Seaford first. You know, I can't say enough how much you will be missed by this organization. I've known Chris for 15 years anyway. We've worked on a few projects together. He and Burley have worked on some things at the wastewater treatment plant. We could not ask for a more capable person, in my opinion. Again, I'm going to call him semi-local. He's grew up in the Maryland area, Fruitland. It's in his blood. His dad worked for the city of Fruitland at the wastewater treatment plant, so he has a long history. University of Maryland graduate. If council approves this transition from Judy to Chris, I believe we'll be in good hands. He's very capable. He has Ben Hearn, who not only has worked here, grown up here, is in our fire company. You know, I believe we are in good hands at this transition. Right. Judy, you still seem too young to me to be doing this, but, you know. There is a letter from Judy and from GMB outlining this and basically that, but I don't know, Judy, did I miss anything?
Can I just
Absolutely,
say a
please.
few words? Yes, so, good evening, and first of all, I want to congratulate you, Charles, on your award, and you also, Tracy. You're both very well deserved.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I want to say how much of a pleasure and an honor it's been working for the city of Seaford. And I didn't know this was going to happen. You know, helping to solve real problems and provide infrastructure improvements and improve services in my hometown. I've been fortunate through my career to work with many fine and dedicated councilmen and women, mayors, city staff, starting back with Bill Slatcher as mayor and Woody Crosby as city manager. And, you know, I feel it's a good time for me to be leaving because of my support system at GMB and the qualified staff that's stepping up into this transition. Chris I've known and worked with for over 25 years, started out as an intern while he was in high school. He's done survey work in Seaford. I mean, he's done a lot of different projects and held different roles, but his expertise is the wastewater side, you know, and he's poised to begin the process of upgrading that plant. You know, Ben Hearn, young and local, fellow Blue Jay, fellow Blue Hen. He's sat by my side for the last 4.5 years, you know, learning the systems, the infrastructure, the sewer, the water, the storm drain, the procedures and the processes. So, you know, he and Chris are going to form the team and bring in, you know, others as needed. Jim Willie is our president and managing member of the firm. So he steers our ship and keeps it afloat and, you know, is here to commit the expertise and staffing, you know, for the years to come. So I feel really good about that side of it. But again, I'm very honored, and want to express my gratitude for all the opportunities that the city of Seaford has provided to me, both personally and professionally. So I'm going to miss this, so thank you very much.
Well, I got, before we have a little something we want to give you, but I just want to say, and again, sometimes on council, depending on what department you're in, you don't realize that GMB is really ingrained into our organization, and GMB comes to the table when we're spending really, 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 really big money, and you need to know you have somebody you can trust that's looking for the best way to do things. And when you live in your own community that you're putting all this on, you tend to look at it, I think, a little different. Judy was at every meeting about Western Sussex Sewer District and about what we're trying to do in our industrial park lands, which we believe is going to drive jobs. She's part of our economic development team. GMB is part of our economic development team. We're going to continue to want to keep them as part of our economic development team, and we just can't thank you enough. We love having you at every meeting, and you've been fabulous, and we owe you a big grat. So I want to give you something from the stage.
Oh, okay, okay.
Oh, yes.
I love that. Thank you. I am.
This is the way you did it. We're going to miss you there.
Say something after the vote. Let's make sure we get it through the process.
Okay, with that said, are there any questions in reference to this transition?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I have a comment. I didn't realize that maybe I might have this opportunity. Judy, I spoke with you before the meeting, and I would like it memorialized how much I appreciate working with you. I did over the past 6 years, I was on the operations group in Public Works, and I interacted with you in the beginning parts of the wastewater treatment upgrade, the Western Sussex sewer project, the flood mapping, and the flood project, or just the risk management part of your assessment. As well as a contractor, my history with you goes back almost 30 years, interacting with you with different companies, my own company, and other construction companies that I worked for. You've always been a straight shooter, and I expect no less. You've got a couple of months to go. It's not the end, but you can see the finish line from here. But, you know, I just wanted to memorialize just my appreciation for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, are there any questions or comments about the transition? If not, I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Holland, I make the motion to approve the appointment of Mr. Chris Delbishar, P.E., as city engineer, effective December 31st, 2020.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman King, I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Ashley, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Santos,
Aye.
Councilman Henderson,
Aye.
Councilman Holland,
Aye.
Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
Councilman King,
Aye.
Did we have a backup plan if that didn't go well?
No. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations, Chris. Chris, would you like to say a couple words?
Yeah, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I certainly cannot replace Judy Schwartz. Nobody can. Well, I will endeavor to, provide as good a service as she ever has to the city of Seaford. I, recognize how important the city of Seaford is to GMB as a client. And, even though I'm not a Delaware native, we've got folks like Ben on our team, and certainly some big shoes, but I'm up for the task. I look forward to working with each and every one of you and getting to know you. So thank you.
We appreciate you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to thank the city of Seaford for being a long-term client, and We also want to express our appreciation for upgrading our facilities over here and upping our lease. And so, we're going to be here for a good long time. We've got more office space, and we can make an even bigger commitment to the city. And when I was talking to Charles, I said I think the one thing that everybody definitely will find with Chris is that he is very much like Judy, and he's a get things done kind of person. If you text him or call him on his cell phone, he's going to answer you. If you send him an email, he's going to answer you. He's not going to be afraid to tell you the truth. He's definitely a straight shooter. And as Judy mentioned, she's been training Ben, who has taken his PE test, and we hope will soon be joining the ranks of professional engineers. And
All right.
As a homegrown Seaford native, he's coming along right behind Chris, so we feel like we have a good support team. But I really just wanted to say thank you for being our client, and thank you for upgrading our facilities. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
Ben, we'll,
All right,
Ben,
Ben.
we'll,
You're next.
we'll see you tomorrow morning at the gym. Okay. Next, we have Mr. Chris Sims with Smart Utility Management.
Yes. Good evening, Chris. How are you?
Evening, Chris.
So Chris is here this evening to present council with the 2020 electrical rate maintenance options for consideration and implementation. Councilman McCoy is going to help me with this, but we recently met. Chris came to our electric committee and presented basically the same presentation that council's going to see tonight, and they did make a recommendation that Chris will cover tonight. So they did review the information and provided their input for council's consideration this evening. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Chris.
Thank you. Is it available here? I mean, I can just go over it on paper. Yeah, that's fine.
Council
Okay.
has it on their board pack.
They do have it? Okay,
Yep.
great. Thank you. Yeah, so basically, we're going to continue on with the, really it's retail rate modernization for the electric rates. We've been accomplishing this in small steps since about 2008. And the main focus is trying to ensure that the electric department is collecting the fixed costs necessary and equitably from all the customers. As energy efficiency becomes more prevalent and solar and things of that nature, customers are finding ways to use less energy, and it makes it more difficult to ensure that you can run a healthy utility to cover your non-power supply cost operating expenses. And so what we're going to look at is some increases for the customer charges, but what we're going to do is everything that we're going to look at is going to be what's called revenue neutral. And so an increase in a customer charge would be met with an equal decrease in the energy rate, so that overall the rate class as a whole won't be paying any more money. So it's not an increase to customers, it's essentially shifting some of the revenues for the lower usage customers to the lower usage customers from the higher usage customers. So the first page of the document has where the minimum bills are today for all of the rate classes and all of the electric utilities in the state. And Seaford's minimum bill for the residential, and most of our focus will be on residentials going forward, since we are a bedroom community and are largely residential. So we have a $15 per month minimum bill, and that's almost in the middle of the pack relative to our peers. And we're really middle of the pack as it appears for really the rest of the rate classes as well. But this is just to highlight that the minimum bill even today is by no means outside of the range of where our peers are at today. So really the main focus will be on the second page here. So this is the actual customer charge itself for each rate class. And so for the residentials, we can see that it's a $10 customer charge. So we'll note that the $10 customer charge is obviously less than the minimum bill. So essentially, the way that works today is customers get a certain number of kilowatt hours for free, essentially, where if you use between 0 and I believe it's about 30 kilowatt hours, you would still pay $15 regardless of like I said, if you're not there at all and use 0, or if you use a very, very small amount of energy. And so that $10 is actually a little bit below the average for the state. You can see it's even below the IOU's. DP&L is almost $12. And these customer charges as a whole, and not just Delaware, but all states and all utilities, are increasing pretty significantly, over the last 10 years or so. And so if we were to perform a cost of service study where it looks at the actual fixed cost collection for each rate class, the typical customer charge for a residential, they can be supported starting at around $25 plus. So we're definitely nowhere near where, even if we were to make some pretty large increases today, we're not at risk of potentially going beyond what can be supported through a cost of service analysis. So the residential charge being at $10, obviously our first step is we want to move closer and closer to the minimum bill and essentially eliminate the minimum bill. That's a legacy item that was put in place because prior to 2008 there was no customer charge at all. And so if customers use 0 kilowatt hours, they would essentially be charged $0 if we didn't have a minimum bill. And so that's why the minimum bill was instituted, and it was larger than the customer charge. We're just gradually working our way up to that point. And like I said, the ultimate end goal will be to go beyond the $15 into the 20 plus range, but that will be several years probably before that would need to occur. So for the residentials, like I said, we're in the middle to lower part of the group and still well below our $15 minimum bill. The commercial non-demands at $12, now they're around the same size as a residential customer in most cases, since this is the commercial non-demands is anybody less than 3,500 kilowatt hours. But it's very common, and you can see that amongst the other utilities as well. For the commercial non-demands, typically have a higher customer charge than the residential customer, even though they use around the same number of kilowatt hours each month. And the reason for that is they have what's called a poor load factor, where since they're only operating perhaps 5 days a week or even fewer in some case and 8 hours a day, as opposed to a residential home where it could house people obviously 7 days a week, and the cooking and the cleaning. It's just a lot more activity on a routine basis. So you would, and customers that have better load factors typically have the lower customer charges in that sense, since you will be able to make more of it up with your kilowatt hour charges. So for the commercial non-demands, we're at $12. Again, that is very low relative to the other utilities. There is a $15 minimum bill as well for the commercial non-demands, since I said they're relatively similar size to the residential. The small general service demand customers, and really the remaining classes, MGS, and which is medium general service, and LGS, the large general service, those customers, their charges are already at sort of the high end relative to our peers, and those values are already beyond that $25 static cost per month. Now, granted, they have more expensive transformers and meters, so their customer charges should be higher, but without performing that cost of service, I think if we stay within the range of where our peers are, we're not in any jeopardy of overcharging in any way. And so for what we're going to look at today, my recommendation is not to focus on the demand customers, because even if we were to increase their customer charges, since they do use so many kilowatt hours anyway, that minimum amount essentially to be in that class is so significant that a $5, $10, $15, even $20 change in the customer charges is almost invisible to the customer. It doesn't really accomplish anything. So I suggest that we leave the demand rates where they are, but we are going to focus on the residentials and the commercial non-demands. And there are several options that we're going to look at. The small range is to only do essentially a $1.50 increase, and then we're going to look at a $3 increase and then a $5 increase. So any questions so far?
Yeah, I have.
Yes.
Councilman King.
Yep, Councilman King. So let's take a few minutes and focus in on the residential customers. So the minimum bill, how many customers does the city of Seaford currently have that would fall into that criteria of that minimum bill?
That's a great question. So in terms of a customer that is home, a resident that is home, even if it's one person and it's a very small one-bedroom unit, that customer is still going to use at least 400 to 500 kilowatt hours a month. That is almost bare minimum. That's probably not even doing any cooking at home, like laundry once every other week. It is very difficult to use that few amount of kilowatt hours. And so that is obviously well above the ones that would be getting it, that would be affected by the minimum bill. So the minimum bill is really for what we call on-off readings. So if there's a customer that either moves into a property and say there was only 2 days left in that billing month, so they were only there for 2 days and maybe only had lights on, that customer's electric bill would be based on very, very few kilowatt hours. And same for if the property is not resided in, and so say it's a rental unit that the owner is not able to rent out, it's just vacant for that particular month, it's going to use very, very few kilowatt hours, 0, or if they shut the breakers off, it'd be 0. Maybe they move, they go vacation somewhere and you know, in the wintertime or the off season or something of that nature. It's really, they're very, very unique accounts in terms of what would be affected there. The typical household, the average consumption on a monthly basis is between 900 and 1,000 kilowatt hours a month. And so it's really getting below that minimum of 400 kilowatt hours. You're talking about some non-traditional accounts. It's somebody is not there all the time, for sure.
Okay. And my second question, so as a homeowner that's using over, as you alluded to, the 900 just kilowatts a month or a period or a cycle, this $30 proposed increase, how would that affect me? I see how we're lowering the cost of utility, but so how would that impact? Would that impact me at all? Or how would that impact a residential homeowner that exceeds the minimum amount, this increase? So how would that have an impact on them?
That's correct. So it has the effect of, it would be lowering the bill for anybody that uses more than, I believe, depending on the option, it's about 600 kilowatt hours. So that person's bill would actually come down, and the people's bill that is for those on-off readings, if you use between 0 and 45 kilowatt hours, if you're hit, well, really actually coming all the way up to 600, but the very small accounts are going to see an increase in their bill.
Okay. And then my last question. So as an account that uses more than the average you alluded to, so when rates are cheaper, right, I'm saving money. But if we implement this proposed increase in the minimum, if rates were to go up, then that savings would evaporate, correct?
Well, I mean, if rates were to go up for a different reason, then yes. I mean, if power supply costs were to increase in the future and the PCAC were to increase, it would offset that. But the power supply costs are fixed for the remainder of this year. We won't know what DMEC is going to charge in 2021 until roughly the first or second week in December is when the board approves what the wholesale rate will be. So we won't know until the end of this year whether or not the PCAC will need to change to account for power supply cost in 2021. I mean, the rate has been coming down. I'm hopeful that it will continue to do so. I mean, all the signs in other utilities in other states, the continued pressure, downward pressure on power supply costs significantly now with the reduction in demand with the businesses shuttering. All the signs are pointing that costs will continue to go down into the foreseeable future, at least the next 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it.
Did you have a question?
Well, I do. I'd kind of like to add to what Councilman King had to say, just based on, I skipped ahead a little bit, based on you're saying somewhere up to 750 kilowatt hours, you're actually going to lower rates by half a penny per kilowatt hour, but raise the customer charge $3. Now, I didn't watch the whole presentation, but I'm sure you did a calculation that would be just about neutral.
That's correct.
$0 change for the average person using 750.
That's right.
But once it goes over that, everybody's on an even playing field.
That's correct. So in terms of the absolute dollar amount difference will not change once you're outside of that 750 kilowatt hour rate class. So it changes on a percentage basis because if it's a $3 reduction in your bill, as that gets extended out over more and more kilowatt hours, it's a smaller percentage of your overall bill in terms of a reduction. But it's in terms of absolute dollars, it would be the same.
I don't want to step on your presentation, but I'd like to get your, I'd like to understand better why you prefer option 2 over option 3.
So that's simply from the standpoint of just aesthetically taking a customer charge from $10 to $15. That's a 50% increase in the customer charge. It's not a guarantee that the customers that you'll get a significantly more number of phone calls going up $5 as opposed to just $3. But that's the only reason for that. If the city believes that the customer acceptance of a $5 increase in the customer charge is palatable to the community, then that would be the ideal place to be in terms of that would help us eliminate that minimum bill, and it just makes it easier going forward because the stair steps would be smaller on a percentage basis.
Yeah,
but
I just think it's a marketing issue because you're also reducing the electric cost by almost 1 penny for that block. So you're still net no change in cost.
You're absolutely right. Yes, it would give a larger reduction to the average customer in the city, but it would be a larger increase for those on-off readings, the non-vacant customer accounts. They would see that.
Remember, it's revenue neutral to the utility. Okay, so it's cost shifting within those customers. There will be customers who will see an increase, the on-off, but your average utility customer who consumes more than, it's about 650 kilowatt hours a month in option number 2 will get about a 1% decrease based on that rate block being reduced. I will say this, Councilman, the Electric Committee did go in depth with all 3 options, option 1, option 2, option 3. There was a lot of discussion around option 1 and option 2, and Councilman McCoy chaired the meeting. He expressed his concern in these times about going too far towards option 3. The public members specifically on the Electric Committee really felt like that option 2 was the way to go, and that is the recommendation that was made to the city council to focus on that. And I think, and certainly Councilman McCoy, you can help me here, I think the committee felt like it was a good balance. As Mr. Sims stated, that 50% increase in the customer charge, they acknowledge the city's been taking slow incremental steps over the last decade to try to implement this fixed cost strategy in our pricing signals to our customers. And they just felt like this was, we take another small step, another small bite, and then as Mr. Sims alluded, in the February, March, April timeframe when council's doing their budget, he's going to come back with the budget, and then we're going to look at rates. The PCAC might change, so on and so forth. So that's when it's really time to address, if council decides to make this change, that's when we really look at the rates in totality and maybe look at doing something different than just the customer charge at that time. Did I state that correctly, Mr. Sims?
Yes, that's right. And in fact, in 2019, when we increased, we did something very similar to this. We took the customer charge for the residentials at that time was $8.75, and we raised it up to $10. So the last time we did it was only a $1.25 increase. That also played into, why I was sort of leaning towards going with $3 today. We have gone $2.50 as high as that much of an increase in 1 year in the past.
Well, I have an enormous amount of respect for the members of the electric committee, having been on it or been on the electric liaison previous. I just would also, and I've had this discussion, a very lively debate with your predecessor, that we march on to getting our cost recovery in line. I mean, it seems we skipped a year where nothing was done, and if we're modernizing, if we slowly modernize, we'll never get there. So I just would recommend that we move forward more aggressively to get our cost recovery in line, so that we're actually taking in the amount of money that it takes to maintain the system.
Oh, and yeah, the rates are overall collecting. We have been making sure that the total revenues being collected are sufficient to cover the budget needs on an annual basis. And in fact, we I don't want to call it sequestered, but the PPCAC, the wholesale power supply costs did come down slightly in 2020. However, rather than passing that through as a reduction to customers, we did increase the gross operating margin for the electric department specifically to cover increase in expenses. So this is just more of a equitability within the rate class issue that the larger, and in this case average customer, is essentially currently subsidizing an on-off or a non-usage customer. But we have come a very long way. In fact, I mean, one of the earliest things we did, aside from just instituting the customer charge, is there were summer and winter rates where that has been eliminated almost ubiquitously across all utilities in all states. So we have made significant strides, and those have the larger impacts on a percentage basis on the typical customer.
Well, I don't want to monopolize all the time, but I am concerned that with increases in efficiency and self-generation and distributed generation, that our revenues or our consumption is going to go down, but we still have an infrastructure to pay for. And I think I think I've made it clear that we ought to be marching more aggressively towards getting full cost recovery out of that base charge. So thank you very much. Appreciate your input.
Yes, Councilman Santos, you have a question?
Yes. Between option number 3 and option number 2, would option number 3 save the average customer more money, percentage-wise?
That would, yes.
That would?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm just looking at the I'll tell you what page I'm looking at, and.
Yeah, I believe he's looking at the same one.
Yeah, I'm on
Yeah.
page, it says 15 here, but,
15 is correct. Yeah,
it
I
doesn't
think that's
say-
probably about.
It doesn't
1.5%.
clearly mark what percentage that is.
It's not, it's between two values there, but I'm estimating there 1.5% for the average customer above about 800 kilowatt hours. Mr. Sims, is
Yeah,
that?
it would be slightly larger than
Option
1%.
number two.
Mhm.
Yeah, option number 2 for the average customer above 650, in that case, would be about a 1% decrease in that second rate block. You are correct, Councilman Santos. As Councilman Henderson pointed out, if we increase that customer charge, then for the average customer, that rate would go lower, even lower, to about 1.5% on their total electric bill.
Well, if that's the case, I'm leaning more to option number 3, just to save more money and keep infrastructure, well, still be able to maintain the infrastructure that we need.
And again, as Mr. Sims stated, either of the options gets the utility whole. We still collect the same amount of revenue. It's just how big of a step do we want to take at this moment in time? Mr. Sims, you would be happy with either option 2 or 3. You would not have any recommendation against either one?
No, like I said, my only concern was really just the level of customer acceptance of a $5 increase. But as I mentioned, it's going to be for those customers that aren't even there. A bill that goes from $15 to $20, I'm not sure if that person is going to necessarily, be outraged or feel the need to call in. But yeah, I know that the value should be over $20 for sure. So the closer we are to that would be better. It's just a question of, do we think the customers can handle it?
Councilman
One more
Henderson.
question, please, just so I have a better understanding. So the 5% or $5 increase that we could add to a customer that's not utilizing the 800, 700 kilowatts, with a 1% reduction for the customers that are exceeding that, is that going to be a neutral situation, or is that a situation where?
Yes, because it is.
We have that many customers in this market that utilize, that have just that minimum bill a month?
So the decrease in terms of absolute dollar-wise for the average customer is only $1.40.
Okay.
That's where the offset is.
All right.
It's revenue neutral to the utility,
Yep.
to the city's revenues, but individual bills will be different. So you could have someone who goes from a bill of $15 a month to $20 a month.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, if you're on the higher end of that, you could see, a $10 decrease in your bill.
Yeah, just to remind council real quick, and again, this is good discussion. I want you guys all to understand, but this is why we have committees, and we have the public on these committees to go through these things. We have people that are going to pay these bills, and to give us that balanced approach to give guidance to council. Council certainly has every right to overturn what a committee has recommended for us, but I just want you to know those guys went through this in a framework of what they think the public would best accept. But just want to remind you as to where this suggested option came from.
And I will add, the committee did go into some depth about the discussion of the price sensitivity in these customers on the lower end. And what was requested, and staff has followed up with, and I believe it was the chairman, Councilman McCoy, who suggested we come up with some talking points and a little training for our customer care folks that are front-facing to these customers. So when they call in and ask questions, hey, why did my bill go up $5? They can talk them through that increase in the customer charge, so on and so forth, expediently, and really try to answer their questions right there and hopefully help with that.
Okay. Councilman Henderson?
My other concern is that if you look over the chart that Councilman Santos was referring to on page 15, it looks like, I don't have the number here, but it looks like maybe 25 or 30 customers are going to experience a spike, an increase and then it'll rapidly go down to past about 800 customers to the 3,500 customers, their bills will be lower. Now, my concern is that many of these people in the 2,700 customer range, it's a known fact that the largest users of electric in the city are some of our poorest people. And if they can get a better reduction in their utility bill, even though the customer charge is raised, then it's a better deal for them. And I'm really sensitive to that. I happen to be in the larger consumption rate class, so over about 1,100 kilowatts an hour. So I should still see a reduction. However, there is a vast minority of people who are intermittent users or even minuscule users. They may have a meter on a garage that has a security light. And if their bill is going to go up to the minimum bill anyway, you have a customer charge of $15, the minimum bill is $15. They're just going to pay the $15.
But
So
sorry.
I'm a little bit concerned that, we looked at a lot of numbers, but we didn't look at the socioeconomic impact of some of the poorest consumers that we have in the city.
No, you're right, because they don't typically have access to the highest efficiency equipment.
Correct.
And are forced oftentimes to be home more often. Yeah, it is common that on average the lower income people in the community use about 20% more than the average household.
I see it more as a marketing problem for the city that would raise a customer charge but lower a total bill. That's a communication issue for us as councilmen and the city at large. But I think in order to maximize, I'll defer to the mayor to go to option 2, but it just seems like we're missing an opportunity to serve our constituents when we're in a situation where, with the pandemic and with economic situations like they are, every penny counts for our most disadvantaged customers.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, with that, I will accept the motion.
Mr. Committee Man?
Well, I guess I'm point of order here. As being on the committee, am I authorized to make the motion, or should I abstain from the motion?
No, yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay.
You can
Okay,
get the
that's
motion.
why you were looking at me. I thought I was.
No,
you're fine.
no.
Okay. In that case, can I take a step back and retract and make a comment?
You can,
Okay.
you have the floor.
I think everything that Councilman Henderson was saying is correct. And I believe the intent of the committee was to save as much money for our residents as possible. That was the intent. Even in the commentary, we were talking about, we need to make these maneuvers. It feels like, and hearing the commentary from the group here, the council, this is more of a half measure where we could take a full measure and benefit our community a little bit better. So, being the chairman of the committee, I don't mind making the alteration from option 2 to option 3 if we feel it's the best interest of our community, our constituents. I'm okay with that.
The floor is yours if you'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will make the motion to implement the retail rates consistent with option 3 in today's presentation that will increase the residential and commercial non-demand customer charges by $5 per month and reduce their energy charges by an equivalent amount as to not change the overall revenues for each rate class as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman King, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Ashley, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Santos,
Aye.
Councilman Henderson,
Aye.
Councilman Holland,
Aye.
Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
Councilman King.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, next we have the fee and rate schedule.
All right, the fee and rate schedule was based on option number 2, so we went through and modified that. Can we bring that back to the next meeting once we recalculate those numbers?
All
Is
right.
that,
Can we have a motion to
Table it,
table this
please?
till next meeting, please?
Councilman Henderson, I move to table new business item 4.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman McCoy, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, next we have the impact tap fees for,
you can tell Judy and them they can leave if they want.
yes, thank you guys for coming and almost making it to 9 o'clock. That, have her share that basket with you.
They have long drives.
Yeah. Thank you,
Sorry,
Chris.
sir.
No, appreciate that. They were hung out there. All right, Director of Economic Development, Tricia Newcomer.
Good evening. Just again, I want to sort of echo what everybody else has said this evening before I get into my piece. I do want to congratulate both Charles and Tracy. It's an honor to work alongside both of you. I know all of us agree that you're excellent at what you do, and it's most deserving for both of you. So congratulations.
Thank
you.
Woo-hoo.
So this evening, you have in your packet a recommendation from the city manager and myself with regard to the building number 3 that you saw earlier in the public hearing and the estimated fees that developer will potentially incur with that property. As you know, that property owner also owns many other buildings in the downtown, specifically 327 High Street, 114 Market Street, and 107 Spring Street. And I do have a few photos before I kind of get into the meat and potatoes of it, just to kind of get you familiar with the properties, what they look like, and what their situations are. So we'll start here. You can see this is 114 Market and 107 Spring. So the White House to the left is the Market Street, and you can see sort of in the back behind the red brick is the Spring Street property. I'll go into a little bit deeper view for you. Just to familiarize everybody, this is the corner of High and Market. So this is the Market Street property. Obviously, the windows are boarded up and have been for quite some time. Going all the way around the property, you can still potentially access this property. There have been issues where folks have accessed the property. This is the back side of the same. This is 107 Spring Street. It and the Market Street property kind of share that back parking area. It too is also in a boarded up condition and have been for quite some time. And then this is the 327 High Street. This is kind of looking at it from the back. Many of us know it as the former Gibbons Florist building. It has actually been boarded up even prior to this developer purchasing it. So quite a significant amount of time. And there have been issues with folks getting in to this property as well. So we've obviously had many conversations, with council. We've had conversations with the downtown organizations, Downtown Seaford, Seaford Tomorrow. Many of you heard it recently at the Courageous Conversations that it was stated that there's a lot of derelict properties in the downtown, and that is creating some of the areas where crime and unwanted activity tend to go, and that there really needs to be some type of plan to take that into some type of a remediation. And we are trying to continuously work to improve our downtown based on our designation of a DDD in 2015. So Charles and I kind of came back from that Courageous Conversation piece, actually, and we've talked to the property owner many times. The properties are actually in his plans for demolition, but that process is years down the road. And years down the road could continue that same crime, unwanted activity. And so we wanted to come up with what's our best way to make this happen sooner rather than later, to get our community basically where we wanted to be. So we sat down and I asked the building official to run an estimated fees calculation. Again, only estimated based on preliminary information that we had and some of the preliminary information from some of the other buildings. And we sat down, Charles and I sat down and really looked at them, what could we do? And so we came up with, out of $210,000 worth of estimated fees, there was about $169,000 in water, sewer, impact fees, tap fees, that we thought maybe if we waived those fees, would the developer then be interested in using that money that he would have otherwise had to pay the city to demolish those properties now, sooner rather than later. So we did reach out to the developer. He agreed he would be interested and committed that if that is the route that we did go, he did commit to it being by April 30th of 2021, which is a very soon time frame, considering we could be several years down the road otherwise. We also, in our recommendation, you'll see a clawback, sort of, that if the developer doesn't meet that time frame, that then those fees that we waived become due. So you don't meet your deadline by April 30th, or there hasn't been some communication back and forth as to why there's that delay, that developer will then owe the city that money. For the city to actually go into doing the demolition, there's a lot of liabilities that are associated with this. And we just think that this is probably the most practical way and fastest way to get that done. And again, with the agreeance of the developer, that was a huge battle not a battle, but a huge hurdle to overcome, that they were favorable as well. So any questions I can answer, Charles can answer.
Any questions from council on this incentive to transfer, to tear down the property? Councilman King?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman King, Trish?
Yeah.
So having this conversation with this developer, is this going to be a binding legal document that the investor and the city have together, or is this just a handshake? And
Yeah, I think the plan is, if you don't mind, we'll write him a letter based on council's decision. We agree to this agreement. Should he not fulfill his agreement as the Director of Economic Development has laid out by April 30th, 2021, he's not going to get a certificate of occupancy for building number 3 until he pays us his fees in full.
right, and I appreciate that and hear that, but so is there? I mean, is that going to be binding? Like, it's going to be a legal document that's written and drawn out and signed, and that way, if he doesn't fulfill his end of the deal, then there's accountability. And the reason that I'm asking is this is also the same investor that took the money that was slotted for the playground, right, behind Rural Farms, the new Rural Farms, and he used that money to demolish the building. So my concern is just the accountability aspect, having a conversation, say, yeah, we hear you, but we just want to make sure that this is what gets done. And if it doesn't get done, then the city has some recourse or some accountability.
I mean, absolutely, Councilman, if it's council's wish and motion for staff to have our attorney involved and have a legal binding document, we can get it drawn up, we can absolutely do that, and we can work with the developer to execute that, if you would like us to do that.
Any other questions from council? Yes, sir.
Councilman Henderson, I think this is a real innovative way to speed up the, it's not, I guess it would be a beautification of downtown to make it safer, and to make it, make it safer and a better looking downtown in anticipation of development. My main concern is this year's budget for code for building fees was $70,000. And we're going to give relief for $22,520. There's also impact fees and tap fees that I'm sure that Director Mears had anticipated in his budgeting for revenue. Now I realize there's some costs associated with that revenue, but I just would like some input as to the preparedness of the two departments that are going to experience a revenue shortfall on this budget.
I mean, I guess I'll try to answer it this way, and I've not done an analysis. I'm not sure if the building official or the public works director have either, but, you know, recently the building official brought back to council, we've issued so many building permits, we've reached our limit for tap fee credits this year. He informed us at the last construction coordination meeting, we've actually exceeded the extension that council gave, was it 2 months ago, Mike? So that shows you the pace of construction that the building department is doing right now. And anecdotally, I would say, I believe building permits are up. So I think it would cover this potential shortfall. We can do that analysis, certainly get that back to you, let you know where we're trending right now. We can have the director of finance actually query that account, show you where we are, you know, at 9/12 of the month, I'm sorry, of the year. It's a valid point, though, yes, sir. We certainly would not hold our directors responsible for a valid incentive that the council agreed to.
Yes, I mean, we asked the directors and the rest of their staff to watch every penny because every penny counts, and to make their jobs even that much harder, you know, just in order to incentivize the beautification of the downtown and to speed up the process for development. You know, there is the last straw at some point, you know, and these guys don't for sure don't need the extra stress of not of having the budget shortfall. So just your assuredness that they're not going to get a black mark, or that they're going to get some relief, or that the revenue is outpacing the anticipated budget revenue, so that this won't cause any damage, is reassuring.
Yeah, we can do an analysis of that line item, those line items.
And just to add to the point, you know, you mentioned it for the beautification purposes. And if it was just for the beautification purposes alone, I don't think we would be having these conversations. I think because we have heard such an outcry from our community that we felt that it was imperative we try to figure out a way to make it happen sooner rather than later for the safety and crime activity that there is perceived.
I do not disagree. I'm 100% in support of it. I just don't want to handcuff our directors in the process.
Could I ask one more question?
Sure.
Sure,
So
Councilman King.
is it possible that instead of us, you know, picking up the tab or the bill on this, is it a possibility that this demolition projects are completed before permits are issued to do next step renovation? So I mean, timelines, like for an example. So
Well,
if we,
right now, the timeline, aside of any type of relief, the timeline for the demolition of these properties is 2 to 3 years from now. That is his current timeline.
But I'm saying, do we have the ability to attach this, the mandating those properties be demolished and cleaned up before he moves on with any the next step activity?
If I could, you know, we just approved a final site plan this evening, and to tell this gentleman that he can't have a permit on a site plan that we just approved tonight, I don't think is fair.
I'm not talking about the one we did tonight, I'm talking about further ventures. So you got a timeline, right? So how long do we let these properties just sit there, you know, and continue
Well, his permit's imminent.
Yeah, I think the timeline on this incentive, Councilman King, is that he's got the approval to build the building. He's not going to get the occupancy to that building if this isn't done by April, and he'll owe the money back.
He'll have to pay, yeah.
He'll have to pay us. So that's the binding part of this, for him to get it done in a timely fashion.
I think to run out, I think I know where Councilman King's going. You know, we could, certainly the city could make a code action out of this and, you know, tear the house down through a code action if we needed to. That is, as council is well aware, a very lengthy process. And what Mr. Perlmutter is doing, the owner of these properties, is when Mike calls him and says, hey, somebody's breaking in, by the pictures are evident, he boards it up. He keeps it secure. So that delays any type of code action. We don't have the legal right, if the house or the building is in stasis and is not a public nuisance, we don't really have any grounds to go in there. Structurally, as with the building across the street, the roof finally fell in, that's when he tore it down. This building, I've not inspected it in a long time, but, you know, judging by the pictures, it's standing upright, he's maintaining it, he's boarding it up. And as Tricia said, that could go on, I don't want to say indefinitely, but certainly for 24, 48 months or more, depending upon the economic situation that he's under and how fast his project develops. I think I go back to initially what the Director of Economic Development said, you know, how do we work with this developer to accelerate that timeline for the good of all? He has to spend this money anyway.
Right.
I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Yeah, it does, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right, any other questions in reference to this? Okay, thanks, Tricia. If not, I'll accept a motion.
Councilman Santos, I'll prepare to make a motion to approve the proposal to reduce impact, tap, and other fees for building number 3 at the residence at River Place in exchange. The property owner, the Galleria at Riverwalk, and the shops at Riverwalk will agree to demolish 3 properties owned by them in the downtown district prior to April 30th, 2021, as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman Holland?
One question.
Yes, sir.
What's the projected timeline on construction of number 3?
Mike's going to help me here, but each of these buildings take about 11 months from start to finish. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
And you think he's probably going to get started right after the first of the year?
That's what he has anticipated, yes.
Well, you got to have a sewer relocated, so.
That's a big project.
Yeah. So the thrust of it.
You make a good point there.
The thrust of it is that he'll be far from being complete with building number 3 before he has to have these buildings down.
He might meet Councilman King timeline, actually. Yeah, you're correct. Based on that timing, you're right.
So with that, I yield to Councilman Holland.
So we were looking for a second.
Councilman Holland, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Santos,
Aye.
Councilman Henderson,
Aye.
Councilman Holland,
Aye.
Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
Councilman King.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. It's
Thank you.
unanimous.
Thank you, Trish.
Okay, next we're going to have Bill Bennett come up and do a demonstration on the new e-reliability software.
We can bring it up. I got to sign it. In last year's budget, you passed the purchase of the APPA's e-reliability program. In June, we made the purchase. Got it downloaded. It's a web-based software. We got it, got a little bit of training on it. And then Jessica West and myself inputted a mess of fake news just to get used to it, see how it works. And now we've got it up and running over the last 2 weeks, I guess it is. She has inputted all of the outages that we've had in 2019 and 2020 up to date. What we used to do was we would, when the lineman went out and had an outage, they fill out a form, which they still do, make some changes to it to match the information in this program, and then Jessica put it in spreadsheets. And at the end of each year, you had some data you had to get out to go into federal reports, which was lengthy to do. And then every 3 years, when we did our RP3 reliability award, she had to do that for 3 years. So this program, if I remember my password.
Strike one. Strike two. Gary. Boom.
Caps lock. Is that what it was? I don't know.
That's why I went in the house.
You could be.
So now when you put this data in, we'll be able to use it a lot more efficiently. You'll see when I bring it up there that it tracks what caused the outages. And it does it by substation, by breakers. You can do a report for each circuit to see how many outages each circuit had. So, start date. Use this keyboard? So for this year, year to date, we've had 22 outages due to tropical storm, whatever his name was. 50% of them this year so far were on August the 4th. But the rest of them, you can see squirrels were 14%, trees were 14%, equipment, that's a number of bad cutouts that we've experienced just from age. So now, you that quick, you have all that information. And that's for citywide. So then if you go to Transformer A in Pine Street Substation, which is circuit 210, 220, and 230, you can run it like that. And then you see one was squirrel and one was a storm. And the same thing for Transformer B. Transformer B was the one that area got the biggest hit from the storm. So 10 of the outages, 4 were worn out equipment, 3 from trees and 2 from squirrels. So that's how quick, and then you can break it down by each circuit. 280 got the most hits in that storm, which is Woodside Manor and Westview is the area that took most of the hits. So, and then another report you can do to circuit rankings. that tells you, because I just did the substations on each circuit, that tells you which, over on the left, you'll see 260, 290. That tells you the ones that have the most outages. And then you can click on the little icon and it tells you what they were. So this gives us more use now, like tree trimming. We keep track of where we did last year and where we do next year. It's just about a 3 to 4 year rotation to get around town. Well, now we can actually look at the circuit and say this is the one that needs the tree trimming. And then the federal report I was talking about, where you have to take all these outages and you get these numbers at the bottom. Where now Jessica has to go through her Excel spreadsheets and figure all this up, and it's divided out by the number of meters you have, is the percentages and how long people are out of power. So it's a lengthy process for her. Now it's done that quick. And when, you know, so then you can go back into 2019, and that's when we started, so we can't go back before that. So the ASIA percentage, that's percent of time the average customer in Seaford has electric. So 99.9972% of the time, which the people in Woodside Manor on 280 don't agree with that because they're the ones that have taken the most hits. But the other people that haven't had a blink all year think it's low.
And you're working to improve that.
Yeah. Yes. And I'm on the ones that have been hit a lot. The SAIDA is the average interruption duration. So the average duration is 13.38 minutes, which is really quick. But that's taking it over all 4,000 meters that we have. And then the CAID is the average interruption duration, which this year is about 109 minutes. It's still under 2 hours, which is good. But that storm where we had the people behind the Catholic Church were out for 13 hours. Mm-hmm. So that raises, but you have those storms that come through here hopefully once every 50 years.
Hopefully.
So this report will give us it's a tool we can use to better track our circuits, our tree trimming, our outages, and help us be more accurate filling out the federal report forms that we have to fill out every year. So, hope to put it to good use, and thank you for your support in getting it approved, and we'll fill it in and keep it up to date.
Yeah. Bill, thank you for bringing it back through and showing us what it does. It means a lot. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, next we have the bids on the 2020 demolitions.
Bailey's coming up.
So I've identified 4 properties proposed for demolition in this budget year. Put it in early this year in anticipation of not, having time to get them down if there was anybody that wanted to protest anything like we had last year. So I've 412 East Poplar Street, 329 North Front Street, 446 North Front Street, and 912 Motorford Road. These are all properties that have sat vacant and in disrepair for more than 5 or 6 years now. 412 East Poplar Street recently rose to the top of the list as people have been constantly breaking in and getting inside that, and numerous police calls. The neighbors call all the time. People are in there. We were in there at least 3 times in 1 week having to reboard it up because people kept getting in. The 329 North Front Street, it's constantly getting broken into as well. And 446, it's just the roof is failing on it. There's a large hole in the roof. Same with 912 Motor Ford Road. The back wall on that, and there's a basement, it's almost completely collapsed. So I've identified these 4 properties, and we did get 4 bids. Oh, no. So we did get 4 bids in. The low bidder was John Macklin and Son Demolition for the total of $52,579.44. This is over what we budgeted for this year. We only budgeted $45,000. But since these are nuisance properties, constant police calls to the code department to reboard them, I'm asking for council's consideration to proceed with all 4 demolitions.
Okay, are there any questions in reference to the bid and the demolitions requested? If not, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Holland, I make the motion to approve low bidder John Macklin and Son Demolition in the amount of $52,579.44 for 4 location advertised and the 2020 demolition bid package for $7,479.44 of the funding approved as a line item budget overrun as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman Santos, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Ashley, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Santos,
Aye.
Councilman Henderson,
Aye.
Councilman Holland,
Aye.
Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
Councilman King.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, next we have the code department vehicle. Michael?
Yes. We also put out for bid a replacement vehicle for the code department to replace our 2009 Ford Escape. We got 1 bid for that from Hertrick Fleet Services. We are going to trade in a 2007 Malibu that's currently being used by the admin department, and they are going to take over the use of our Ford Escape since it's a newer vehicle. The Malibu's in rough shape. The total without trade for it's a 2021 Chevrolet Equinox all-wheel drive. The total without trade is $23,498. They're offering $1,000 trade for the Malibu, which brings the total for the new vehicle to $22,498. I'm recommending we accept that bid, and this is under what we budgeted for this. We budgeted $28,000 for the new vehicle.
Okay, are there any questions about the code department vehicle? If not, I'll, yes, sir.
You're almost to a wash for your demolition.
Almost.
Almost.
That is
There you
something
go.
Michael pointed out.
All right, if there's not, I'll accept the motion.
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I make that motion to approve low bidder Hertrick Fleet Services in the amount with trade and $22,498 for the code department vehicle as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman King, I'll second that.
Thank you. Ashley, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Santos,
Aye.
Councilman Henderson,
Aye.
Councilman Holland,
Aye.
Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
Councilman King.
Aye.
All right, thank you. It's unanimous. All right, next we have bids on the Ventura Drive extension. Is that Mr. Mears? He's awake and ready?
We'll see.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Good evening. This is we put out the bid to extend the Venture Drive again. This will be to serve Kent Peterson's property that he purchased from the city. He's moved ahead and actually started the site work there. So we received 4 bids. The low bidder is actually his site contractor, so that's going to work out real well. So I'm recommending that we accept the low bidder. I can give you the amount, it's in your package, but it's Melvin Joseph's for the amount of $49,836. That is under what we bid, or I'm sorry, what we budgeted. We had $72,000 or $74,000.
77.
77 from Danny Short. So, we'll see where we end up with that project in the end, and then try to reallocate those funds to spend them on something else.
Are there any questions in regards to the bids for Ventura Drive extension? If not, I'll accept the motion.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Councilman King, I'll make the motion to approve the low bidder, Melvin Joseph Construction, in the amount of $49,836 for the Venture Drive Extension project as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman Henderson, I second.
All right, thank you. Ashley, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Santos,
Aye.
Councilman Henderson,
Aye.
Councilman Holland,
Aye.
Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
Councilman King.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. Thanks, Burley. You guys are working quick now. I like it. All right, next we have the bids on the electric department wood chipper.
On last Wednesday, October 21st, we opened the bids for a new chipper. Got 3 bids in. They all met the requirements. Iron Source at $40,129.20. Bobcat of Newcastle, $40,125. And Vermeer Mid-Atlantic, $36,856. I'd like to recommend awarding the bid to the low bidder, Vermeer Mid-Atlantic, for the cost of $36,856. I'd placed $39,000 in the budget, so we're $2,144 under budget.
Well done. All right, are there any questions in regards to the wood chipper bid? If not, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman McCoy, I'll make the motion to approve the low bidder Vermeer Mid-Atlantic in the amount of $36,856 for the electric department wood chipper as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Holland, I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Ashley, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Santos,
Aye.
Councilman Henderson,
Aye.
Councilman Holland,
Aye.
Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
Councilman King.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have the bids on the Sussex Highway fiber optic cable extension.
Yeah, we opened those bids also October 21st. We got 3 bids in. One from AUI at $124,498.52. One from Blue Star Technologies at $72,800. And one from Concord Networks at $55,710. Concord Networks is a new vendor for us if we choose to go with them. I reached out and talked with them. Their main office is in Ithaca, Maryland. They do have a Salisbury office. They've done work for Salisbury University and Warwick. They just signed a 3-year agreement with Warwick to handle all their IT infrastructure. They did a big project to tie all their buildings together and signed this 3-year agreement, so they're here in the area. They're more than capable to do the work we're going to ask them to do. This will run fiber extension out to the Dolby lift station, which is our lift station, but it's also part of the Western Sussex Sewer Extension.
Unified Sewer District.
Unified, yeah. So I would like to recommend award to the low bidder Concord Networks at the cost of $55,710. This project was actually in last year's budget, but trying to get prices from people we had to work with for make-ready work and get permits, we couldn't get it bid until now. We do have an agreement with Sussex County that permits us to be reimbursed for the installation on their flow proportional basis at 70% to the city and 30% to the county for all labor and materials. So our portion on this project, just the labor part of it, would be $38,997, and the rest would come from the county. But I recommend providing this out of electric reserve account funds, and the balance in that at this time is $503,719.46.
Okay, are there any questions to the bids for the fiber extension?
I do.
Councilman Henderson.
I got a question on the 70-30 split. The cost of us to run this fiber out to a lift station that's pumping flowage from Greenwood and Bridgeville is arguably more than 30%.
And Burley's here, thankfully, to help us, but those numbers have come up based on our analysis of the existing flows anticipated coming from the Unified Sewer District into the city of Seaford and our existing flows in the city to include the Blade Sanitary Sewer District. those flows are projected, and it might be what you're remembering or thinking about, are projected to double at some point. So they have, their percentage is expected to increase in the coming years. But these are the numbers that we currently have that we've agreed to kind of at the time of flipping the switch is what I'll call it. Burley, did I state that generally correctly?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, we currently take about 8% complete. We do about 1 million gallons a day, and they're projecting to give us about 200 to 250,000 gallons. So it comes out to about 25, 27%. We round it up to 30%.
Yeah, I understand. I get that. That's what's going to end up at the plant.
You're
However,
speaking specifically at that point.
we're running infrastructure out to a lift station that will have a majority of the flow. I mean, that lift station benefits the county much more than it benefits the city.
It does.
And our cost share is flip-flopped in my
I see the way you're looking at it now. I apologize. Okay. That lift station is ours. It's being dedicated to us. Okay. So, and the agreement that council made at the time we entered into the Unified Sewer District is they're going to make a range of improvements to the city of Seaford's infrastructure in exchange for what we'll call a buy-in cost. And part of that was to establish a lift station, which we've long wanted to have at that location. This 70-30 split, and if you go down, we included the addendum to the wastewater service agreement, the next 2 pages in your attachment. This is also related to some I&I study that Burley wanted to get done on the interceptor sewer, because we want to free up the interceptor infrastructure in the city limits to take on the Unified Sewer District's flows. And part of our problem is we've got a lot of I&I in the old center city portion. So this agreement was looped in around 2 different things: the extension of the fiber optic network as well as the I&I study, which it just recently wrapped up. So maybe we probably shoehorned one thing into another, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I seeing a part of the larger picture, that shed some light on it. But when you first look at it, I mean,
I see what
the lift station, even though it's going to be ours, is going to receive waste from 2 other communities. And maybe sometime in the next 20 years, after it gets, if we get some development out there on the Dolby Farm and north, it might receive city waste.
You're correct.
But right now, it's not.
Well, and I'll say this, maybe to allay some of your fears or concerns, not fears, but when we do the billing, when we start the billing on this, all the sewage, all the effluent that comes through that lift station will be on the maintenance bill. So in that aspect of it, they are paying 100% of the flows. You're absolutely correct, because no city properties except Mr. Dolby's office, which might get connected in the next few days, will be on that. But yeah, if that area develops, that flow proportion will change. But you're correct in the way you see it.
But also, this project starts behind Lowe's on Herring Run Road, goes behind that by the water tower, goes up the southbound lane a little bit. We'll go underneath the highway and go all the way to Old Furnace to pick up the Dolby lift station. But it's also going to go south and go all the way down to the Stargate Diner. So it'll give us the option. There were times people looked at where Teen Challenge is now that may have needed fiber optic, but it wasn't there. And then this will give you tie-in where we could get down to Popeye's lift station in the future. And there'll be 8 or 10 storage loops in there. So if in the future we need it, or the hospital needed, or the county needed, or whoever, it'll give us storage loops, and you can move those up and down. You put them, you space them out through there, but it's easy to move 100 feet of cable 2 poles that way. So it'll give us, there's other benefits besides just getting out to Dolby lift station.
Well, that's...
It gives us fiber in a larger area of the town out on Sussex Highway, where it could really benefit the city down the road.
Yeah. Knowing that now, it seems like a much more equitable split because we do get some other benefit. So I'm okay with it.
Are there any other questions or reference to this extension? If not, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman McCoy, I'll make the motion to approve the low bidder Concor in the amount of $55,710 for the Sussex Highway Fiber Optic Cable Extension Project, with $38,997 of funding provided by Electric Reserve Funds and the balance funded by Sussex County as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman Holland? Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Thank you. Ashley, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Santos,
Aye.
Councilman Henderson,
Aye.
Councilman Holland,
Aye.
Councilman McCoy.
Aye.
Councilman King.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. Thank Bill.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so much. Okay, do we have any old business?
No, sir, we do not.
Reminders of meetings?
We have no reminders of meetings.
Well,
sir.
real quick, while we're on that, we have Halloween coming up, and that's been posted on our website for the hours and how the CDC wants us to handle that. The city is working on the Christmas plan and the Christmas tree lighting plan, correct?
Yes,
Which will be,
yeah, there will be a Christmas parade. It'll be a reverse Christmas parade. We'll include more information about that once we get approval from from DHSS, hopefully at the next meeting.
and the Christmas parade this year will be a week later than normal, correct? The second weekend in December?
It'll be on the 5th of December, so it'll be, yeah.
And we're going to do it on the first Saturday?
We are.
Okay.
We did, you're correct. We looked at doing it on the 12th, but we are going to go forward. The committee
Okay.
wants to go forward on the 5th.
Okay. All right, very good. All right, just wanted to get that out there. All right, we'll start with committee reports with Administration IT. Councilman Santos.
Thank you, Mayor. All right. Meetings attended were the Electric Committee meeting. They discussed the retail rate maintenance and revenue neutral rate changes. They met with the Director of Public Works and City Engineer to discuss the funding plan for the Headworks Improvement Project at the City Wastewater Treatment Facility. They made a final inspection of the Police Department lobby and created a punch list for acceptance from the contractor. They spoke with the developer regarding a potential annexation and described the timeline and the process. For the IT report, they upgraded the Tab Fusion. It's the software that they use it's a central filing system for the city files. All files are maintained in central location, categorized, and filed accordingly. And they're still negotiating with the Teamsters. They haven't scheduled next meeting, but they're working on it. The city's still preparing for the annual audit. The auditors are continuing final fieldwork review and account reconciliations and work papers, and they're performing an account analysis. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we'll have Police and Fire. Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the interest of saving time in the late hour, I'm going to let my report that has been submitted in its entirety, I'm going to let it stand.
No comment? Let it stand.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, next we'll have Code, Parks, and Rec. Councilman
Thank you,
Holland.
Mr. Mayor. Start with the Code Department. You'll start scheduling interviews for Code Inspector position. All other work is routine, and site work for Wawa has started, and Thought Road work is underway. Del Dot work is complete at Melanie's Ridge, and site work has started for East Park Business Center. And on the Parks and Rec side, Bobby started his 9-week green stormwater training and completed 5th week of men's softball, and we need 1 week of makeup. And Katie completed her 7th week of supervisory training. And plans are in the works for winter field and hockey and basketball program. And they are prepping for upcoming trunk or treats. And they have reached out to Chris Counts concerning electrical fire destruction of a shed at Boys and Girls Club. And he will keep me updated as he receives information from the insurance company. And the Western Sussex Youth Soccer Association lost the majority of their soccer equipment. And they have a GoFundMe page if anyone is interested in donating. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we have Electric. Councilman McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll hit a few highlights and we'll get out of here. Since the last report, they started installing the mounts for the new LED Christmas lights, did the monthly substation checks, cut trees at 227 Nylon Boulevard on the Poplar Street side. On the director's side, they sent the escrow letter concerning the city taking over the infrastructure at 550 Rust Street. Had the monthly construction coordination meeting and helped with the nighttime street light check. Over the course of the next few weeks, they plan on hanging the Christmas decorations and getting the estimate and schedule for directional drilling at Wawa. Mr. Mayor, has been a few highlights. The report's been submitted in its entirety.
Great, thank you very much. And finally, we have Public Works wastewater, Councilman King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report has been submitted in its entirety. I would encourage it, if you have some time to look over it. The one thing I do want to call out is Mr. Burley Mears and his team are working extremely hard, understaffed. They got a lot of things going on there, people quarantined, people out, and they're still delivering service to our customers without any impact. So I appreciate everything that him and his team are doing. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. I know it's been a late night, but just to wrap it up, we're a very blessed city to have city clerk and city manager nominated tonight in the Windows Awards. That is impressive. So I'm sure there'll be celebrations all night long tonight. So with that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman Holland, I second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Good night. Good night.
Be safe.
Good night, guys.
Bill, have a good one.